Saying no, having lots of orgasms, asking for what you need, and choosing your future self over today's version of yourself. Today we're talking all things self-love. Hello, and welcome to the Fast Forward Amy show, the show where we lift your life and business with simple strategies. I'm Fast Forward Amy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode every Tuesday. When this episode airs, it's Valentine's Day week, and that might be really confronting. You might feel a little bit alone when you see everyone wildly in love, and of course on social media you see all the perfect couples and the perfect happiness, and you might be one of those couples or a part of one of those couples. You might be alone, you might be feeling happy, you might be feeling lonely. Whichever way you are feeling today, I'm gonna infuse your day with a little bit more self-love. And self-love isn't just self-care. It's not just self-care in the way the media portrays it in today's day and age. It's not just taking a bath or putting skincare treatments on your face. It's about self-discipline, self-respect, saying no, doing what you need to do for your future self instead of doing what you might be craving right now. And I want to talk to you about that today. I want to talk about how in these past couple of months where my life has not been easy, if I'm being honest, I have started looking for more and more self-love because I really felt the need to start loving myself even more. And I have found sometimes unexpected ways I could start doing that. And today I want to just chat with you like you are my friend and share some of those perspectives with you. And you know what? By the time this airs, I might disagree already with some of these items. I might be much further ahead, but in my journey right now, I want to share with you how I have found more self-love in different areas of my life and business. And this is episode 117, and that means through fastforwardamy.com/117, you can find the article with the different principles I'm gonna be talking about with you today. Loving yourself and believing in yourself while you are growing and while you are trying to improve yourself isn't always easy. I remember asking my coach and friend Sarah actually, like, how do you love yourself right now while still trying to build a better you? And I don't know if I know the answer already. I do know that at some points or sometimes I feel like I've nailed it, and sometimes I feel very confused. Now, are those my hormones doing that to me or not? I don't really know. I just know that I do love working on myself. I do love growing, but I also like feeling safe and I like feeling loved. And I found that there are a couple of different things that give me that feeling of really being taken care of by myself. One of those things I'm thinking about is that self-love is also self-discipline. Saying no to yourself today in order to say yes to a future self is a form of self-love. Now, what do I mean by that? It might be that you choose to wake up to work out, although you really want to stay in bed because that self-discipline is going to get you to a better you. And I've struggled with this a lot lately because I feel like online there's this whole thing like, take it easy, don't work too hard, but also work enough and hustle. And it's like, are we allowed to wake up early and work out? Are we still allowed to work late at night in order to achieve our dreams? I don't really know. There's like people critiquing basically anything you do online. So I've chosen to ignore that because that's not going to make you happier. And I've chosen to just really look at myself. And I was in this period in my life, or I have been in this period in my life where I noticed I wanted to create a better version of myself, and where I had been creating a better version of myself in business, it really was time for me to create a better version of myself in my private life as well. Namely, my health. My health really needed to become a priority again. I've shared about this before. I think there's an episode where I talk about the 100 days protocol. I think it's somewhere in the episode of like in the 70s. Maybe my team can look it up. And I started looking at what are the key habits I need in order to become the more healthy, happy version of myself. Because when you are more healthy, your brain is less foggy. You are more kind to people. You feel more energized. It's just really nice to feel better. And I started realizing that, I could choose to eat the potato chips, but I could also choose to eat the vegetables because that's what I really needed. It might not have been what I wanted at that moment, but it was what my body really needed. And it wasn't just what my body needed in that moment. It was what my future self needed. So learning to choose for your future self instead of your now self can be really handy when it comes to creating more love for yourself and finding that through self-discipline. I don't know if it makes sense. It's just that when you get to a point where you're calm enough to make these decisions, it can really help when you are stuck making decisions or you wonder like, what is the best choice for me right now? Is the best choice to stay in my bed? Is the best choice to keep on scrolling on my phone? Let's say it's 9:30 p.m. You're on the couch, you're scrolling your phone on your phone. You're tired, you're watching TV, and at the same time scrolling on your phone. Is that the best choice for you, or will tomorrow you be really happy that you just went upstairs, maybe you showered and you read a book in your bed and there was no phone available? I think that format of self-discipline will really turn into self-love because you are choosing for the better version of you tomorrow. That's one of the first things I was thinking about. I'm already really struggling recording this episode. You're welcome. Now, the second, well, what also, by the way, what I want to add to that is that it's the same with your work. I did a poll and a question box on my stories and I asked people, what do you struggle with in terms of getting motivated? Because I like recording motivational stuff, but I don't always know what to record because for some sick reason, I'm inherently motivated. And sometimes I don't get how people aren't motivated in their work because I'm always motivated. But then I thought, well, I do get it because I'm not always motivated to work on my health. And I also have more unmotivated times in my business, but I've just kind of hacked myself. So in your work as well, you can choose short-term gains or long-term gains. And skipping the podcast recordings might be fun because you get a lazy morning, but in the future, you're going to be happy that you batched 4 podcasts in one morning on a Monday morning when you really didn't want to wake up. Truth bomb. That's me today when I'm recording these podcasts. I really didn't want to record these podcasts, but now I'm really happy that I'm recording them. So you see, and future Amy will be really happy that she recorded like months in advance. So there's that. Self-love isn't just self-discipline. Self-love is also saying no. I was recently in a bar, actually with my team, and we were having a happy hour that turned into an after 7 p.m. happy hour. Actually, it was not a happy hour anymore. It was a happy evening. And we were sitting in the bar just with some team members. And you know, my team works extremely hard and they have really long days of working. They are all extremely motivated. They never cancel. They're always there giving it their all. And we had this evening, Friday evening, where we were able to go out for a drink. So that was really fun. We were laughing, we were telling stories, and it's so important to connect, you know? So we're sitting there really connecting. Out of all of the hours we work, we have less than 1 hour every week where we get to do something like that, let's assume. So we're sitting there laughing and someone walks up to us, someone I know, someone else on my team knows, and who's actually also a client. She's a very kind woman and her friends had just gone out to go for a smoke. She walked up to us and she kind of like asked me / us, can I come and sit with you? And old me would have been like, yeah, sure. But it was a really special moment for us. You know, we were celebrating a launch and just like connecting. So I said, if you don't mind, I'd rather not because we're just with the team right now and we're celebrating just amongst us. And she was like, okay. And there was this like silence at the table. And I was like, shit, was that rude of me that I said that? And my team members were like, no, you do you. But that was like really, wow, that you were just able to say, no, I would rather not. That's actually incredibly powerful, but not something a lot of people would say. A year ago, 6 months ago, I never would have done that. But I'm at this point where I'm like, well, I get to choose what I want. And that means I got to say no to what I don't want. Because if you say yes to everyone else, you are saying no to yourself. So I didn't want to say no to that person. I wanted to say yes to my team. So in order to say yes to my team, I had to say no to that person. And different story about saying no, which I thought was really cool, is a few months ago, I was at this Goodwood Revival, a car festival with my dad. Long story short, you might have seen it on my Instagram stories. It was really fun. I think from now on, I'm going to go there every year in September. It's this really cool, like you walk into the 50s. Everyone is dressed up 40s, 50s, 60s style. All the cars are really old. There's races. There are hundreds of actors walking around. Everyone is dressed up in that like old school fashion. It's so much fun. And we were there with a group of friends and we were looking for a table. We had been looking for a really long time. And at a certain point, we have this table and we have a bunch of chairs because people had just left. And we go and grab them. And our other friends are just arriving, but we're a really big group. And a woman walks up to us and she takes a chair and she asks me, is this chair available? And I tell her, 1 second, I gotta check how many we are because we're a fairly big group. And she tells me, well, surely you're not going to be using all of these chairs. And I replied and I said, was this a question or were you going to grab the chair anyways? And she was like, oh. And I was like, well, if you're asking me a question, I can say no, right? So it was one of those instances where my dad was just chuckling. And I know I might come across as a bitch, actually. But I was like, you are asking me a question. I can reply. And I don't have to say yes to the question. No is an answer. You're always allowed to say no. When someone asks you something, you can be like, no. Or, no, thank you. Or, thanks for the invitation. I'd rather not. Or, no, I don't want to. No. You can just say no. And when someone asks why not, for example, I had earlier this week, wow, I've said a lot of no's in the past week. No wonder I was tired. Someone asked me, can I come and do that at that time? And I said, no, that doesn't work for me. Why not? Because it doesn't work for me. Valid answers, all of them. And I think saying no is a huge form of self-respect and self-love because, as I said, when you say yes to someone else, often that indicates that you're saying no to yourself. But self-love means that you want to say yes to yourself, and that means that often we will have to say no to others. And what I found really works there is kind of like the Marie Kondo method. So Marie Kondo isn't like, what do you want to throw out of your house? She assumes that everything is going to go unless something sparks joy. So instead of having the standard response when someone asks you something, you're like, yes, you can try practicing actually your standard response being no and thinking, when do you want it to be a yes? So when someone asks you something, you can be like, I'll think about it. Or like, oh, I don't think I can, but let me look in my calendar. Instead of saying yes, and then afterwards thinking, shit, I really don't want to go there. Or shit, that's actually not possible for me because I'm like double booked then. So start looking at things as a no, and then thinking, when is it a fuck yes for me? Because things need to be a fuck yes. Like if you're dating someone, if you're having sex with someone, if you are planning things into your calendar, if you're meeting up with friends, it needs to be a fuck yes. By the way, when you're buying clothes, it also needs to be a fuck yes. If you're in the dressing room and it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. And this is when why we have to register the podcast as explicit content. Saying no, such a good one. So difficult though, but I'm curious if this like rang a bell for you. I hope if it rings a bell, you might share this to your stories because I think we all need to learn how to say no more. Might be really uncomfortable though. Your environment might get really intimidated by it. But remember, when someone is intimidated, it's not you are intimidating, it's they are intimidated. It has nothing to do with you actually. Self-love is also self-respect, and that means that, for example, you shouldn't allow yourself to get treated like shit. And that might be because you have a boss or someone you work with who treats you like shit. It might mean that you are in a relationship where you are not being treated as an equal or you're not being valued or respected. If you want to be respected by others, you have to start respecting yourself first. And that means also in the format of taking care of your health and the self-discipline we were actually talking about earlier. I think self-discipline, self-respect, self-love, all of those things, there's so much there. It has to do with boundaries, with saying no, with saying yes to yourself, saying yes to the workout, saying yes to going for a walk, saying yes to the no screen time moments. Wow, so powerful. I'm saying that about my own episode, which is weird, but whatever. At the same time, self-love is also abundance. And that means, and I'm going to take one really specific example because I want to give you examples for every concept here. Self-love is abundance because you don't want to stay in a place in your life out of scarcity. For example, it could mean that you are in a relationship where you don't feel good. And you might be staying in a relationship or in that relationship out of fear that you won't ever meet someone else that's better for you. I don't want to say someone else that's better, because I think none of us are better than others. Maybe just a better match for you. The moment you are staying in a relationship because you fear there isn't anything more out there for you, you are acting from a place of scarcity. You are misaligning with your own values, and you will never truly step into a place of abundance where you can fully love yourself. Because when you do that, when you act out of that fear and that scarcity, you're basically telling yourself, I don't love you enough to take the abundant choice. I don't love you enough to do that. So it's kind of a chicken and egg situation sometimes. I've often said sometimes the mindset isn't there and you need to start taking the actions so the mindset will follow. I know situations like getting out of a relationship are really, really difficult. Believe me, I really know. But remember, you're saying yes to your future self. You're saying yes to future abundance, and you might not see it right now. It's the same as quitting your job. And of course, quitting your job and stepping into the unknown of starting your own business is really, really scary. But you can't not do that out of fear that your own business will not succeed. You gotta do it out of love and abundance that you can make anything you want happen. That's what you gotta do. Next on my list is self-love is also orgasms. I've written down self-love is orgasms, lots of them. I love talking about sex with my friends, joking, like anything. Sex is great. But for years and years, I didn't have orgasms. I'm super uncomfortable talking about this right now. But basically what I wanted to say is, if you might have been in a relationship where your partner feels weird about you masturbating, for example. You might feel ashamed about masturbating. You might feel ashamed about wanting to have sex with someone or like craving sex. None of those things should make you feel ashamed. And if you want to go and get some orgasms, you should go and get some orgasms. And if you can't have orgasms, I feel like maybe light some candles and start exploring yourself and start loving yourself. Because be it that you are in a relationship or not, if you want to be in a space where someone else can really love you, you gotta love yourself too. And that means also sexually. So give yourself the freedom to explore yourself more. And I think that will lead to even more self-love, because you will feel less dependent on someone else loving you. Did that make sense? Am I doing well here? Yes. Okay, cool. Self-love is also physical power. I started weightlifting when I was 18 years old, when I lived in Italy. I had a lot of time back then, so it was easy to get started. I worked out 3 times a week, and my sessions took like 2 hours each. It was really slow. But I started weightlifting, strength training, and it was the first time in my life where I got really, really strong. And I had been sick for a really long time in my life, so I never knew what it was like to be strong. I knew I was strong mentally, but I had been bullied a lot, so I didn't really feel strong in that time of my life. I had been sick for a long time, so my body didn't feel strong. So when I learned strength training, when I learned how to turn my body into like something powerful, it did wonders for me. And to this day, just when I feel less mentally stable, going to making my body stronger too, it also generates a lot of mental strength. So the mental and the physical strength go hand in hand. And that's why I chose self-love is physical power as a new concept for this podcast too. And next on my list is self-love is also asking for what you need. And that's really difficult. And this is something I talk about in my confidence manifesto. I wrote a guide about confidence, by the way. So if you are looking for my top 5 tips that brought me to a more confident place in my life, and it can get you there too, you can go to fastforwardamy.com/confidence manifesto, or just find the link in the description. And there I talk about asking for what you need to. I think it's one of the key confidence pillars, and it isn't easy. But lately I was in a situation where I wasn't doing that great, and I had the feeling that my friends didn't really realize. And I assumed that they didn't realize because I'm always or often portraying this like strong version of myself, Obviously, I show up for my personal brand. I still make stories even when privately not everything might be sunshine and rainbows. But I thought, you know what? They might just not know. So I need to just ask them for help. So I just told them like, hey guys, I'm not doing that well. I might need some help with this and that, or just a really big hug from someone next weekend. Can you guys do that? And they were like, yeah, sure, we're there for you. And it's the moment I asked it, a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders, because I'm also in therapy for this, by the way. I'm typically the very strong person in my family, in my friendships, in my business. So sometimes it's really difficult for me to ask for help. But stating what you need is so powerful. Asking for what you need is so powerful because it means that you know what you need. And that is one of the reasons it's so difficult for other people and why relationships go bankrupt. Because people expect someone else to know what they need, but they haven't fully realized what they need, and they haven't asked for it either. So it's a real show of power. It's a real show of self-love when you are able to say, hey, this is what I need. Can you give it to me? So ask for what you need. That's a huge gift of, or a huge labor of like self-love you can give yourself. Self-love, on the other hand, is also radical responsibility. Everything is your responsibility. That's one of the things that has changed my life. It's also in my confidence manifesto that you can find in the description. When you hold on to this hope that other people will fix your life for you, or will fix your business, or will meet your expectations when you haven't communicated them, it's always kind of gonna go wrong. I feel like that's the whole putting eggs in your own basket story. I've told this story multiple times, many times, but one of the reasons Kylie Jenner is one of the richest Kardashians or Jenners is because she's always put her eggs in her own basket. Like, she's built her own brand and took control of that and built that up and up and up. Whereas some of the other Kardashians have spent a lot of their promotional space on building other people's brands and doing brand collabs and getting paid for that. All of that time and space was put into Kylie's own brand, which is why she was able to like build it up into like mega empire, of course, amongst other reasons. And radical responsibility kind of works the same way. So obviously in your business or with your kids, you might be thinking, oh, I wish my family would take more care of my kids. But in the end, you know, you have the kids and you're allowed to be sad, obviously, if people aren't helping you out more. But taking radical responsibility of your own decisions and your own consequences and what you need is really important. Now, I might go too far there sometimes and expect too little of people, which is like kind of aligned with what I was just saying about asking for what you need. But I think taking radical responsibility is especially important in how you feel. And from knowing how you feel, you can ask others for what you need. But radical responsibility for me means that I am 100% responsible for my own happiness. Someone else cannot make me happy. I should not hold on to hope that someone else is going to fix things for me. That was not the case when I was broke. That was not the case when I was unhappy. That was not the case when I was unhealthy. It's really easy to go into this victim mindset where you're like, I can't do this and no one is helping me out. No one else is responsible for your happiness, for your health, for your life. So you gotta take 100% ownership of that. And that's one of my core beliefs in my life. Don't know if this episode is making any sense, but I'm feeling it. So usually when I'm feeling it, I get good reviews. When I get reviews, I gotta admit, not a lot of people are leaving me reviews on Apple Podcast reviews. So maybe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts after this episode, you're like, ooh, Amy, I do like your podcasts, although I'm always lurking and not telling you. As I said, this week, did I say that? I walked up to this girl at a party. No, she walked up to me. She's like, hey, I listened to you in the shower. And I was like, amazing. It's so nice to hear from people that they listen to my podcast. And it would also be really, really nice if you left me a review. Just know that really sparks joy for me, if we're still sticking with the Marie Kondo theme. Self-love is also self-care even when you don't want to. And that ties into what we've said. Self-love is, I mean, can we just all agree? You gotta stop scrolling on Instagram. Self-love also means shutting out the noise, shutting out the distractions. I know it is really fucking difficult to be alone with your feelings. I know it might be really difficult to be alone with your brain if you're an overthinker. But self-love means moving through the difficult patches. Self-love means facing the emotions, facing the thoughts you haven't faced in a while, because we live in a society with so much distraction. I know it's difficult. I know sometimes you don't want to be alone with yourself, but you gotta be alone with yourself. You gotta learn to love yourself. You gotta be more, like, you might not be okay with yourself, and after a while you might be neutral with yourself, and then after a while you might be like positive with yourself. Self-love isn't going to happen in a day, but if you're in this situation where you're getting extremely anxious when you are by yourself, obviously, by the way, look for professional help in this. I'm not someone who can professionally help you with that. I'm just sharing my own experiences, but I know I need to be alone more when being alone scares the shit out of me. And I sometimes have that after really busy recording days. So I'm very highly sensitive. So in recording days, like, there's so many people in my house and we're recording and blah, blah, blah. Like, you might not see it or hear it right now, but there's 3 other people in this room with me right now. And I don't know what they're thinking. But after a day like this, I'm usually like so overstimulated that, of course, I think I want to be by myself, but then everyone leaves and it's like, oh, huge gaping hole in my house. All of a sudden, I'm too tired and I'm left to my own devices, and I still have worries in the back of my brain that I haven't like touched on because I didn't have time all day long. That actually means I need to move through it. But what a lot of people are doing today is just filling it up with more Netflix, more phones, more notifications on the phone, more phone calls, more games, more distraction, maybe more pleasure things. So more booze, more whatever. Like, I know when I'm feeling bad, that's the moment I really shouldn't be drinking. I have like alcoholism in my genes, addiction in my genes. I know I need to be really careful with that. And yeah, I think shut out the noise sometimes. That's also a way of loving yourself, is allowing the deep moments. And then asking for help when you need it, or looking for help. And I know it's not easy to look for help, but I do want to say this because I remember when I hired my first coach. So I had a depression when I was 10 years old. I did go to a therapist for that. She helped me until she didn't anymore, and I was like done with it. And then years later, I was doing really badly, actually. Like, I got bullied in high school, and then I moved to a different country because of that, to like refine myself. I spent a lot of time just with myself. And then 2-3 years later, I was at this point in my life again where I needed help, and I needed someone to teach me how to take care of myself again. And I finally found a coach who could do that, which is Sarah, my really good friend Sarah. She's been on the podcast too. I think in episode 24, you can hear about her, like me and her talking about how you can say no without being a bitch. So that's good. What was I gonna say? Yeah, getting help is another version of self-love. And I know it's really scary because when I got that first form of help, I had already reached out to 3 therapists, didn't get a reply, met up with someone who wasn't a great fit until I'd found Sarah, and she eventually changed my life. So self-love is also getting help. I just want to put it out there. If you need help, it's okay. Go and find it. There will be someone out there who can help you. You are not alone. And last but not least, self-love is also growth and investing in yourself. And often we don't invest in ourselves with a coach or with a business coaching program or with a therapist or with a book because we feel like we still need to finish the books that we still have lying around, or we need to finish that course, or we should just work a little bit harder on ourselves and sleep a little bit more, and we're not allowed to ask for help. But self-love is also investing in yourself first. It also means saving money, but it also means spending money on yourself, on things that really matter and that will really help you grow, instead of just spending money on things society has deemed okay. It means you get to spend money on whatever you think is valuable for yourself. So yeah, both your money, your time, your energy, you get to choose how you spend it. But whatever you do, I would choose growth above all, and I would choose self-love. So yeah, this was episode 117. Happy fucking Valentine's Day. Or later, just happy day. I'm Fast Forward Amy. If you want to read about the different concepts I've been talking about or find my guide, click on the description of this episode or go to fastforwardamy.com/podcast to find all of the relevant articles and blog posts here. I hope you loved this episode. If you hated it, that's also fine. I kind of loved creating it. Could I have done a better job? Maybe. I don't know. I loved making it, and I hope you will have a really nice day, and I wish you lots of self-love in the upcoming weeks and months. Bye.